We keep things rolling here on the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, the marvelous one, Dan Marver, in studio today. And joining us to talk about All-Star breaks, snubs, and potential new Northsiders is our brother, Rich Eberwein. You can check him out on Cubbies on Tap, on Cubbies Crib. You can even check it out at our sister station at heartlandsignal.com. Rich, welcome back to the show, brother. How you been?
Always a pleasure to talk some Cubs baseball with you guys.
Absolutely. It has felt like a very long and yet short summer. There has been a lot of things going on with this Cubs team, and currently, as we are having this conversation right now, the Brewers have been on a tear. The Cubs have been struggling, and the schedule doesn't get that much easier for them. This should have been the easy part of their schedule. Before we get into some snubs and what the future looks like for the Cubs roster-wise, concerns about what you've seen the last week and a half of offense, what you're seeing from the division. We were talking off mic on Milwaukee being actual serious threats in the NL Central. Your thoughts on what has been the last 2 weeks of baseball for the Cubs?
Yeah, I mean, the Cubs just need some more. They need some help. They need pitching help right now. That's the main issue, the main concern. I'm not too worried. They dropped these last two games against Minnesota, but they are on the road. They cleaned up well against St. Louis relatively. They swept Cleveland. After this All-Star break, they should be in better shape. And we're heading into the most consequential few weeks of the season here, where they need to address their pitching staff and potentially an upgrade at third base. So there's exciting stuff on the horizon, and we got a race going on. The Brewers are hot on our heels right now, so the Cubs just got to get to work and continue to bash and hopefully get their magic back a little bit. They're scuffling slightly here, but I'm not too worried. I'm more excited, honestly, because this is going to be an exciting couple months of baseball that we got coming up. Tight division race, trade deadline is going to be huge. There's a lot of games against Milwaukee coming up too. 8 games they still have, so they got some work to do. But I have hope, and I'm excited.
And the excitement has come from players like PCA, like Kyle Tucker, and like somebody who seemed to definitely be universally agreed to be a snub in this All-Star game, and that is Seiya Suzuki. This actually comes to us from Sam Cannon over at SI. Chicago Cubs Seiya Suzuki joins historic company as shocking All-Star snub. Seiya Suzuki has been one of the most productive players in MLB this season, but the Chicago Cubs standout was shut out of the All-Star game in one of the most inexplicable snubs since 1935. From Juan Soto to George Springer, there were plenty of notable snubs who stood out when MLB announced the full All-Star game roster on Sunday. Only one earned a spot in the history book by not punching his ticket to Atlanta. Chicago Cubs designated hitter Seiya Suzuki did not make the cut either, with Kyle Schwarber getting selected as Shohei Ohtani's backup instead. At the same time, Suzuki has logged 26 games in the outfield this season, so he could have snuck in there, stolen a spot from Ronald Acuna Jr., Pico Armstrong, Kyle Tucker, Corbin Carroll, Kyle Stowers, and Fernando Tatis Jr. or James Wood. Suzuki 30 has already notched career highs in multiple categories. He is currently batting .263 with 25 home runs, 22 doubles, 77 RBIs, an OPS of .880, and a 2.1 WAR through 86 games. According to OPA Stats, Greg Harvey, there have been 34 instances of an MLB player recorded at least 25 home runs, 20 doubles, 75 RBIs prior to the All-Star break. While 32 of them have made the All-Star game, Suzuki joins Hank Greenberg as the only ones who did not. So, Rich, how big of a snub was Seiya this year? How big of a snub were we, Rob, potentially having the entire outfield of the NL roster being Chicago Cubs outfielders?
It's tough. The fan voting obviously constitutes the starting lineup for the All-Star game, right? And Suzuki has primarily been the designated hitter. He was never going to get that over Shohei Ohtani, right? Shohei Ohtani is like the lock for the MVP, has been basically before the season started. Mm-hmm. And then when you get to the reserve roster, those spots are determined by player vote, player, manager, and executive vote. Then you get into the whole you don't want multiple players or too many players from the same team being on the All-Star team. Whether that's good or bad, it's debatable. Kyle Schwarber has also had a solid season. It's definitely a snub. It's so weird that the guy who was leading MLB in RBIs at the time did not make the All-Star team. Could you have thrown him in an outfield spot? Sure, but then you're getting into like he only played 26 games in the outfield. Is he deserving? Absolutely. Yeah, he's had a career year. He's already set career highs in MLB for home runs and RBIs, and we're only a little bit over halfway through. So definitely stinks. The other big snub for me was Michael Busch. I feel like Michael Busch should have gotten that reserve spot over Matt Olson. Again, it's like you're getting into the whole unwritten rule of too many players from the same team, but you could say that about Matt Olson too, because Ronald Acuna's on the All-Star team.
And where's the game at this year? Like how much did that play into it?
Exactly. It's there's all kinds of stuff going on behind the scenes. But would I like to see Suzuki and Busch on the team? Obviously, but I'm not too broken up about it at the same time.
They're deserving. Clearly, one other factor. Mr. James Wood of the Washington Nationals. You have to have a representative from every team, I guess. Still, Lord knows why. But that team's in complete disarray from Martinez and Rizzo and all the way down. And by the way, they're playing Milwaukee this weekend, which doesn't help us. So they had to have a player. So maybe Wood stole a Suzuki spot. I don't know what other team did. What player from Colorado made it? They it's the same story. They have to have one from each team. So that's another factor.
And I think it's good vibes for the Cubs, right? Because there were expectations. You look at how like Cam Smith has been playing for Houston. So for Kyle Tucker to be not only one of the best players in the National League, but to be an all-star starter, for him to earn the crazy contract that he's going to get at the end of the season makes it kind of worth it. PCA being an unabashed top-tier all-star, now superstar in the league, has to do everybody's heart well, because we also know you better enjoy him on this rookie contract, because he's going to get paid all the money if he continues on this trajectory. I think for Cub fans, you have good problems when you're talking about snubs, because you're no longer talking about sending somebody from the bullpen or a Starlin Castro or a Giovanni Soto or somebody random because you're having a bad season. You have so much talent on your starting side of your roster, of your starting nine, that you are talking about, this person, Michael Busch should have been there. Your catcher, one of your three catchers should have been an all-star. Like, that's what you're at. But I do think there is a downfall to that. And it's the Cubs have a lot of good players. The bench, not so much. The back end of the rotation, not so much. Part of that bullpen, not so much. And having Rich here, you're somebody who's kind of had your finger on the pulse. You've had to, obviously, covering this team. But there are a lot of contenders out right now. The Cubs need to do a lot of work this All-Star game, post-All-Star game, when it comes to fixing this roster for a real push in August, September, and October. What are your biggest concerns? Is it third base? Is it finding somebody to be that number two behind Shota, in between Tyone and Boyd? Is it getting more bullpen up? Where are you concern-wise, seeing what their shining stars are, but what their blemishes are after this All-Star break? What are you concerned about?
The main concern to me is the starting rotation. You need to add a starting pitcher. That's going to take so much pressure off of your bullpen, just having another inning eater in that rotation, especially with Tyone is going to be out for the next month. He won't be back until August. So you need to have guys ready to eat innings down the stretch and be ready for the playoffs, right? Because there's also a concern that Matthew Boyd could burn out by the end of the season. That he's on track to shatter his his personal record in innings over the last 6 years, right? So this is the most amount of innings that he's pitched in a long time, right? So they need some more beef in that rotation, right? With Steele out, Saad hasn't pitched all year, so that is the main priority for me. There's a lot of options out there. The other thing too is like there's so many teams on the fence right now that over the next by the end of the month are going to determine whether they're buyers or sellers. So, I'm talking about like the Padres, the Diamondbacks, Boston. Those all have good starting pitchers that the Cubs could go after. It's just up in the air whether they're going to be willing to trade guys like that at this time. And then bullpen too. Like trading for another closer would help. right? Like good teams, good playoff teams have multiple guys with closing experience who can handle the ninth inning, who have experience in the ninth inning. Right now we got Daniel Palencia, who doesn't have the experience but has the talent for sure and is showing that he has closer stuff. But the other guy that we were going to be relying on this year, Porter Hodge, has taken a pretty big step backwards and just hit the IL again for the second time. So you want another closer type player that can lock down the later innings for you, because Daniel Palencia and Brad Keller can't pitch every time in those innings, and Drew Pomeranz. So having another lockdown guy there. Third base would be nice to upgrade, but I don't think it's necessary just because of how good the offense has been. It would be nice for sure having like a Eugenio Suarez in the middle of the lineup, another 30 home run slugger. That would be sick, But and then and if you do that, you could put Matt Shaw on the bench, and instead of like Vidal Brujan or John Birdie. So yeah, that's kind of where my mind is at. Like starting pitcher is main priority, then reliever, then third base.
But they really need Birdie for ninth inning and blowouts.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's Rich Eberwein.
He's been saving the bullpen guys.
You can check out his work over at Cubbies Crib, Cubbies on tap, and the latest article over at Cubbies Crib. Porter Hodge's latest outing emphasizes that Cubs need help for bullpen help. And okay, so we've mentioned Eugenio Suarez. You've mentioned that they will need to go out there, and it would be nice to go get a second closer, somebody who can. And let me ask you this, right? Because third base is a big concern for a lot of people, and you bring up Eugenio Suarez being a name, somebody we've continuously seen in the rumor mill, and that will help out your depth, right? But I guess my question is, how aggressive do you think the Cubs are going to be? Because we saw how aggressive they were for Kyle Tucker.
Yeah.
We saw how aggressive they were in years past with like a Aroldis Chapman. This year, with contracts out in the open right now for the front office, needs in big positions like starting pitching and closing against other teams that are still in it, how aggressive do you feel covering this team as long as you have now, being a fan of this team as long as you have now, seeing how the game is going this season? How aggressive is Jet and Carter going to be come trade deadline 2025?
I think they're going to be. I think they are going to be very aggressive. I think they have to be. They would be fools not to be, right? Like, even if Jed Hoyer isn't going to be here post 2025, like, it would be such a bad look if you just middle at the trade deadline when you have such a deep farm system. Like, there's only 4 top prospects on the top 100 list now since Cade Horton and Matt Shaw graduated. But you still have a lot of high upside talent throughout the system that you can bargain with. And those are the type of players that you're going to have to leverage for a top starting pitcher if you're going to go for like a Sandy Alcantara, or if you're going to go for a rental like Merrill Kelly or Zach Gallen from the Diamondbacks. You have the prospect capital to do that and to negotiate and to outbid other teams. If you're not going and upgrading where you have the holes in your rotation and your pitching staff, I don't know what you're doing. Like, this could be it. This could be the only year that they have to make a deep playoff run and possibly go after another World Series. So, like, if you're not taking advantage of that and taking advantage of the fact that you have Kyle Tucker and you have Seiya Suzuki, like we said, performing, having a career year, PCA emerging as a superstar, Michael Busch is your 4th or 5th best hitter, and he's having an insane year too. Like, this is it, man. This is, and by all the interviews that Jed has done and all the rumors and all the reports, they are going to be active and being in on all of the pitching conversations of all the pitchers who are going to be available at this deadline, and I fully expect them to make a splash, and possibly the biggest splash of the deadline.
Do you think that they're going to overpay, though? That's the thing. When you talk about Chapman, who I'd like to get back is Gleyber Torres, who we traded for him. And by the way, I've done the research like I always do. Hunter Goodman, catcher, is the Colorado Rockies representative.
Oh, beautiful.
Which would block Kelly if he ever had a chance. But, And it's funny because I thought that perhaps that Presley would be their closer when they got him, and maybe he has some life left in him too to help out in that late inning thing. But Keller had been so good, and he got lit up, and then of course Hodge got lit up. So the funny thing is the bullpen had been so outstanding for so long. That's why it's such a shock that they each had a bad day. so it stands out that their overall performance has been outstanding though. In the bullpen all year, and they've been getting quality starts right and left. And Imanaga's back. He didn't do as well in his last start, but to add people like you say with the fact that they've lost a lot of arms during the season, starting with Steele and for a while Imanaga and now Tyone, it would be good to get somebody. But I just hate to see them overpay with a lot of of the minor league talent, which was probably what they're going to have to do.
Well, overpay. Let's put the name out there. Everybody's talking about. Rich, is Owen Casey going to be on another team if this Cubs team feels they can win a World Series this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's almost a guarantee that Owen Casey is probably going to get traded this year. Because, like I said, you're going to be in on those conversations for if you're dealing with like the Twins could be another team that has starting pitchers under multiple years of team control. If you're going after a guy who's under contract for several more years after 2025, Owen Casey is undoubtedly going to be in that conversation, and teams are going to want him because he's the Cubs' #1 prospect. He's a power-hitting corner outfielder. He has very high upside. He's one of the, right now, he's basically considered one of the best sluggers in the minor league system. So
yeah, he
is going to be gone, probably.
And he plays right field, which conceivably could be blocked for him. And and there's one picture of him. He has really nice hair.
Yeah, he's a good-looking cat. He's Canadian outfielder. For sure. I mean, it's gonna stink to see him go, especially if the Cubs don't re-sign Kyle Tucker too, because he is the heir apparent for right field, but. That's the price of doing business, and it's the price of acquiring the stuff that you need at the trade deadline to make a playoff push.
Can't you have best of both worlds? Like, again, we know, and we're here with Rich Eberwein, our brother. You can check him out everywhere. Cubs on Tap, Cubbies Crib, heartlandsignal.com. He does amazing work covering this team and a bunch of other stuff. You guys should really check him out at Rich_Eb on Twitter. What's the Twitter handle? Yeah. I think that's what it is. If not, we'll make sure we plug it at the end to give all the love because Rich is doing Rich_Ebs. So if you're the Cubs, right? Like, I think this is where I have a hard time putting it all together because I'm just trying to think if I were playing this in the show, and that's a real simplistic way of saying it. But Craig Counsell is your manager. So I would think the best way to utilize all the money you've spent on having one of the better minds in baseball is what does he do great? And if you give him players like Kyle Tucker, PCA, Matt Shaw, these guys that could get the ball over the fence, into the net, into Waveland Avenue, into all the Cubisms we can, that you would also want him to have the best, strongest bullpen because we know Craig Counsell more than anything will have a starting pitcher go 4 innings and then just kill you with the bullpen for the next 5 innings and win a game 3-0. So if you're Cubs management, if you're Cubs ownership, aren't you feeling more comfortable giving him the nuclear options of Kyle Tucker long-term, bringing up Owen Casey, Seiya's getting a little bit older, Ian Happ's only going to get older. Doesn't it make more sense right now to invest early and get the rewards later than what the Cubs are going to do penny pinching now? I mean, to me, doesn't that make more sense than, we're going to rely on another 21-year-old to do what PCA is doing?
So, wait, ask that again. What are you asking?
It makes more sense for the Cubs to invest now with Craig Counsell having thumpers and a strong bullpen.
Yeah, to make a trade, you're saying, to use your prospect capital.
But can you have best of both worlds where just giving Tucker the money, allowing Casey to kind of grow into it next year, bringing another thumper so that you're just allowing Craig Counsell to do what he does best, and that's set up the team series by series, matchup by matchup, and always having that safety net of, I have my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 constantly in order, in batting stance, ready to go.
If that means keeping Owen Casey, I would probably say no because like I was saying before, like to acquire one of these starting pitchers that you need this year and other teams know you need, they're going to want your best prospect, and Owen Casey is that dude. It's a tough reality, and it stinks, but like that's what they need to do because they can't afford to trade a guy like Cade Horton right now. He's emerged as one of their main rotation pieces. That this is what you do with those prospects. Like this is not the time to be prospect clutching, in my opinion. You know what I mean? This is the time to be wheeling and dealing and doing what you can to make a playoff push this year. Now, this is like a push the chips in, all in now this year. Because how often do the Chicago Cubs have 4 players on pace to hit 30-plus home runs? It hasn't happened since 2019. I mean, this is an unprecedented year, and the first time Jed Hoyer has had a serious contender at the trade deadline, right? Like the last couple of seasons, they were like they were one of those teams in the middle, like, should we buy, should we sell? Like, and they bought a couple of times and it didn't work out, but like those seasons are not like what's happening right now. This is you can just feel the magic, right? This is a different year. You have multiple guys on pace for 100 plus RBIs. They're consistently at the top of the league in run differential and runs scored. Like, this is the best offense we've seen the Cubs have since their World Series core. Go all in, do what you have to do to bolster the staff, and see what you can do this year. Because, it's not all doom and gloom after 2025. Like, you still have most of your pieces still in place for the 2026 season, except for Kyle Tucker. Put up or shut up. Like, if you want to stay in contention, then pay Kyle Tucker. You can pay Kyle Tucker and trade Owen Casey, right? So that's where I'm at. Like, just go all in, see what you can do this year.
We'll leave you on this one, Rich. We've seen it as the years have gone on, as the playoff extension has happened. These teams try to make deals earlier. Even though there are teams that are in contention, want to see how long they're alive, a lot of these teams want to get their investment as early as possible, especially if they're giving up a lot of young talent for either expiring contracts or big-time deals. How early, in your gut, are the Cubs going to make their first, not minor move, because there's going to be a bunch of moves, a bunch of bring-ups, bring-downs, guys that got DFA'd. So the first big move, the first domino drop for the Chicago Cubs that is a big impact player, how early do you think we get that breaking news from Ken Rosenthal?
I don't think anything is going to happen until after the draft, which is this weekend, I believe. That's, Jed Hoyer was on foul territory or north side territory with Sadif Sharma and Patrick Mooney yesterday, and he was talking about how, like, there is talks right now and have been for the last, like, however long, but they're, like, more casual, and, like, stuff is going to pick up in a big way after the draft happens. And, I think, it just depends on who is willing to talk at what time, right? Like, it depends on if the Diamondbacks are like, you know what, all right, we're selling, right? It depends when they make that determination, when they make those decisions. I would say most of the deals are probably going to happen right before the deadline, which is, of course, July 31st. So I wouldn't anticipate anything, quote unquote, early happening. But, you never know. It's baseball.
With the additional wild cards, it makes a team more difficult to determine if they're in the race or not, too. If you're about 500, you're in the race. And the other player that we may part with is Jackson Wiggins. He was going to be in the Futures game yesterday, but he was removed due to workload consideration. So maybe they're resting him up so he can be in good health for his next team.
Yeah, and Jackson Wiggins is the best pitching prospect in the system other than Cade Horton right now, or prospect, right? Brandon Birdsell is ahead of him, but he's been hurt all year. So Wiggins is another guy who could be gone, right?
Do you have a feeling of what the position is that we know they have many targets, right? So let's use the Bears, for example. We knew they wanted to attack the offensive line. They needed help at the defensive line side of it, too. They needed some more wide receiver, but we knew what the main target was. What do you think is the main target of this trade deadline? Because you could tell me, for me, I could talk myself into why it is third base, why it is the closer, why it is the starting pitcher. But the importance, the gap, if you think it is starting pitcher, how big of a gap is it between finding the next guy for your rotation and possibly another bat for your lineup or another arm for Craig Counsell in the bullpen?
Yeah, for me, it's like starting pitcher is the top priority, right? And then like directly behind it is another high leverage reliever. For me, it's all pitching, and then there's like a pretty substantial gap, and then like an upgrade at third base because, like we were saying, like the offense is already cooking pretty nicely this year. Pitching staff needs help. You need more innings. You need to eat more innings out of that staff this year. So that's definitely the main priority, and they've kind of conveyed that. Jed Hoyer has basically said that they're going to be involved in whoever is going to be available at the deadline. But and there's going to be guys. There's going to be stuff available.
Plenty of
aside from those 500 teams.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about like the Orioles. You could go after Felix Bautista. They got a good closer. Cleveland could be out of it. Maybe you go after Clase. That would be crazy.
That would be crazy. So do you think Jeff Passan, when we get that first alert, it's going to be that they targeted and they went after a pitcher first?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes the most sense. Are they going to come out of the draft and be like, all right, our main priority is going after Eugenio Suarez? Probably not.
Right. That has been such a pervasive thought is third base because of how
it's played. It's just because of how bad Matt Shaw has played.
Yeah.
Like, if Matt Shaw is the worst, it's not the worst thing in the world because he does play above average defense at third base, and everybody else around him is hitting. So,
and I want to make a correction too. For some reason in my brain, I'm constantly putting Shaw's name in front of Bush's name. I'm constantly, when I'm talking about Bush, I'm always bringing up Shaw. So if I've said anything good about first base, is because I was mentioning Bush and not Shaw. Marver, any final thoughts as we get ready we're ready in mid-July.
Yeah, I mean, it's All-Star break now, so this is, the official middle of the season, so to speak. So, the Cubs, when they don't score 10 runs as they have so frequently, that sticks out like a sore thumb. The Minnesota, the situation, and where they 2 straight games, they were pretty much shut down by a team that is not really in the race. So, as it goes right now, there's going to be a lot of games against Cardinals and Brewers, and that's going to be where they have to really, separate themselves because they're catching up. So I expect them to make a move in pitching. I'm not so sure about third base either. But again, to give up the prospects is sad, but hopefully they won't. They'll get some good return for it.
Responding to a tweet, should Cubs fans fear the Brewers? Yes.
Absolutely.
Mizorowski, Peralta, and Woodruff is genuinely terrifying. Not to mention Quintana is pitching decent this year. Their rotation is once again pretty scary. That is from our brother Rich Eberwein over on Twitter/X at Rich_Ebs. You can check him out at Cubbies on Tap, Cubbies Crib, HeartlandSignal.com, and everywhere else in the universe. Rich, any final thoughts as we get ready for All-Star break weekend, as we get ready for the trade deadline? Anything you're working on, anything you got your eye on, anything that you want the people to know as we get ready for what is hopefully a very fun second half of Chicago Cubs baseball on the north side?
I'm excited that we have consequential baseball games happening in July and for the next 2 months. Hopefully, this is the best season the Cubs have had since 2019, basically. So enjoy it, folks. This doesn't happen all. It's kind of a reminder. Like, it's hard to have a good season, right? Like, this is the fruition of the last 4 years of after the 2021 rebuild started. Like this, whether Jed Hoyer wants to call it a rebuild or not, it's kind of what it was. They tore it down and traded the World Series core. Everything's coming to fruition right now, right? So this is an important season, and they can make some stuff happen in October this year for the first time since 2019. So let's make it happen.
Yeah, it was 4 years. It was 4 years ago. The core was dismantled, and Baez has had a resurgence after he was almost DFA'd last year.
Shout out to Baez,
starting in center field in the All-Star
for the best team in baseball.
Too bad they couldn't have kept Schwarber. But how are Bryant and Rizzo doing now?
Always in our hearts and forever in our memories. Right. July 31st will be a Thursday, so we got Rich. We're gonna have you in on August 3rd.
Yeah.
Want to talk some Cubs post-trade deadline?
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be a date. He's Rich Eberwein, Cubbies Crib, Cubbies on Tap. He's one of the best in the business. Make sure you guys are checking him out all over the universe. He is our favorite. Rich Eberwein, Dan Marver, I'm Mike Mercado. We keep things rolling here on the Sports Cubicle on WCPT 820 AM, HeartlandSignal.com, WSBC 1240 AM, Chicago. And check us out. Rate, review, subscribe to us, share us on YouTube if you want to see our pretty mugs over on YouTube at The Sports Cubicle. We keep things rolling here on The Sports Cubicle on WCPT 820 AM, WSBC 1240 AM, Chicago.